Alright, this isn't the hype. This is a red alert. The US dollar, once the world's safety net, is unraveling, but everybody is too busy about talking about the next election or the next stock market bounce, while ignoring the quiet collapse that is happening right now. This isn't conspiracy theory, this is cold, hard math. Ray Dalio, the billionaire investor who predicted 2008, says in his book, How Big Countries Go Broke, that we're in the late stage of a long debt cycle, and he's shouting that we're headed for a full-blown collapse. That's code for the system is cracking, and when the currency collapses, well, everything changes. So today, we're walking through why this matters and what it means for your wallet. Let's start with the basics. The US government owes over $36 trillion. And that number is climbing faster than your Uber bill on the New Year's Eve. In just the last 3 years, we've added 11 trillion in new debt. That is not wartime, that is not emergency stimulus, that's just Tuesday in Washington. Dalio says that if we don't reduce deficits from 6.5% to 3% of GDP, we're looking at a death spiral. Why? Because the interest alone on our debt is now over $1 trillion a year. That means that before we fund defense, education, or social security, we're already over $1 trillion in the hole. So in Dalio's book, How Countries Go Broke, he warns that America's $36 trillion debt is not a shock, it's a ticking time bomb. He's moved from traditional debt cycles to tracking geopolitical spiral, like political dysfunction, polarized spending, global risk, creating a perfect storm. If we don't cut deficits from 6.5 to 3%, we risk debt crisis. So the US dollar used to be untouchable, global reserve currency, safe haven, king of the hill. But guess what? That throne is shaking. And the US dollar index, which tracks the dollar's strength, it has dropped nearly 11% in the last year. That is the sharpest collapse since the Nixon shock in 1971. And while your timeline is full of influencers buying crypto and TikTokers selling PDFs, foreign governments, they're dumping US debt. China has already reduced its treasury holdings by over 25% in the last 2 years. Saudi Arabia is cutting deals in yuan and rubles, not dollars. That is not politics, that's a survival. The world sees what we refuse to admit. The dollar isn't what it used to be. And when the dollar loses trust, the America loses leverage forever. DXY has plummeted 11% in 2025. That is the steepest decline since Nixon shock. This matters why? Because when the dollar falls, your cash buys less gasoline, groceries, and gadgets. And Dalio also warns global reserve holders may go fire sale on US treasuries. No buyers, interest rates explode, inflation surges, bond stock markets crater. And when the dollar sneezes, your wallet catches fire. So now, let's talk about what this collapse actually means. When the dollar weakens, the Fed steps in. They will print money to buy bonds just to slow the bleeding, and when they print more money, inflation skyrockets. When inflation skyrockets, interest rates follow, and when interest rates go up, the cost of everything goes vertical. Your mortgage with that 3% fixed rate dream is gone. New buyers would face 8 to 9 minimum, if not more. Your groceries up another 15% since 2022. Your business loan twice as expensive as it was pre-COVID. Meanwhile, the middle class is the one holding everything together, is getting disseminated. Wages aren't keeping up, 401ks are volatile, and housing, it's now completely unaffordable in 99% of counties if you make the national median income. This isn't correction, this is a system eating itself from the inside out. So it's not that your paycheck doesn't stretch far enough, it's that the money itself is shrinking. And here's how Dalio outlines the mechanics. US budget, 7 trillion spending with 5 trillion revenue. That's 2 trillion in deficits. Interest alone running $1 trillion a year today and rising. Foreign buyers are thinning out. So what happens next? Rates rise, borrowing costs skyrocket, economic growth stalls, inflation accelerates. We get not just a recession, but a debt-induced collapse. This isn't 2008, it's a national collapse happening right now. Ray Dalio calls this cycle big cycle. It's happened before in every major empire, like the Dutch in the 1600s, the British in the 1800s, and now, well, now it's the US in real time. And Dalio's stages are very clear. First, massive debt buildup, decline in productivity, internal conflict, loss of trust in the currency, and the shift of global power. And here's the kicker. Empires don't collapse overnight. They rot slowly and then fall all at once. The US is printing, borrowing, and inflation inflating its way towards the edge, and no one in the power has the guts to pull the brakes. So the collapse isn't a future event, it's the chapter we're actually living in right now. This is not a theory, it's your rent, your mortgage, and your paycheck. Because mortgages and auto rate loans are already on fire. Imported inflation, which means your grocery bill is up 15 to 20%. 401k exposed. Job market is tightening. Dalio says that it's like a financial heart attack. It's not a cold. If the patient doesn't act, the system becomes irreversibly weak. You are not living through cycles, you are surviving a collapse. Now, if you're still watching, good. Because this is where everybody else hits the panic button, but you go tactical. Here's what smart investors are doing right now. Diversify out of USD. You don't have to believe in gold or crypto. Just don't keep everything tied to one dying currency. Move beyond USD, dollar, global equity, even Bitcoin. Stay liquid. Because when the collapse hits, assets will go on sale. And cash, well, cash buys freedom in chaos. Don't rely on rising stocks or inflation wealth. Build real cash flow. Own real productive assets. Businesses, real estate with cash flow. Income you control. If you're dependent on appreciation alone, you're going to be gambling. So reduce mortgages, business debt, weaker currencies, amplify risk. At the end, you can't stop the storm, but you can be the one buying land when everybody else is selling their Lambo to pay for gas bill. And when the collapse hits, don't be broke. Opportunity will be knocking at your savings account. The dollar collapse is happening. It is slow, it is systemic, and it will change absolutely everything from how you invest to how you survive. This is Strive Network. Subscribe, like, and share, and drop a comment below whether you think that Fed has it under control, or we'll see you on the next one.